Oh, I'm just getting some stuff ready. I'll be right there. It's happening. All right. Yes.
Great to be with you, Dick.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What?
It's true. But how do people feel about house parts?
The sportos and motorheads and
geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads. They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
I agree.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's a dick fur.
What's a dick for?
To pee with.
Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts, ma'am.
Oh, we're coming. Hold on.
Something strange happened to me this morning.
Was it a dream where you see yourself standing in sort of sun god robes on a pyramid with 1,000 naked women screaming and throwing little pickles at you?
No.
Why am I the only person that has that dream?
Let's just go. Let's get up there. I'm trying to run stuff in the BG as they were. But I'm just gonna. There's some things I just have to fix out in front, and one of them is my brand new little page that I'm trying to make, which is here. Okay, yeah, that's ugly because I can't load the page. There you go. That's a little better. There you go. Until I in the studio mode or whatever, so that I can put my guest in that little divot right to our right, and then I can look at the news with them and then get a thing because we have guests today. Bob CESCA is joining us and Tara Dublin. Now I have to say, does Bob know? All right, he's got the links, same links as before. He's all good. I hope so. But we'll be seeing him this hour, I think. Fingers crossed. And then, of course, at the very least, believe me, Tara will be here at the top of the next hour. She'll bulldoze the living gazangas off of you. She'll elbow her way past anybody. I got to tell you, there's some great things about Tara, but I think the main one for me is that as a regular concert goer who is not satisfied sitting in the gifted VIP suites that I am often given as a member of the media, as a, what do they call me on WCPT? Multimedia personality. Yes, as a as a multimedia, as a multimedia personality. I feel like I should be wearing sunglasses just whenever I address myself as such. I'm often like given good seats to some things, not always, but sometimes at shows, and I love that. But honest to God, bands, and I'll just address you all now because you're all watching. I'd rather have a pit wristband and backstage creds. I want to come and give you a hug and tell you how much I appreciate your work. I'm not going to overstay my welcome, and I'm not going to even go anywhere near the spread of little bread and little meats and cheeses that they have for you back. I wouldn't dare. I would not dare. But I want to be down in the goddamn pit. I want to be front 4 rows. I want to be, because I'm making, yeah. So, have I seen Metallica? I've seen Metallica many times, and I've loved it every time. And that's, I think, famously, my buddy, rest his soul, Robert Hall, who we sorely miss. I sorely miss him every time I walk up the stairs of my house, because I have a picture of he and I playing on the stage at the Roxy together. And it breaks my heart every time I say his name out loud. But my dear friend Robert Hall, who is friends with Robert Trujillo, because they're in the Robert Club, got us backstage at a Metallica show that we went and saw, and check staff chat. Okay, yes, I will. Thank you. And it was my first time meeting the guys. I'd met Robert Trujillo in passing before, really quickly, but I'd never met Kirk or Lars or James especially. And I have to say I was kind of extra excited, as you would be. And you go into this room, need the old the old one not working. That's weird. Okay, cool. I will give that's hold on. Curious, because I have not changed it, but I will give you brand new links and you can forward to them, and we'll be all good. Okay, copying that. Copy that. There's that thing. And then, of course, this is the PW is, you can just cut and paste it. That should work. Excellent. So we can have our dear Bob CESCA in with us in a moment. He's having trouble getting past security. But he's got an all access laminate on the House Sparks Megaworldwide. I'm just saying. So I go backstage and there's all this gathering, family people and label and blah blah blah, all hanging out. Family people, family, friends, people, general, the peeps, the Metallica peeps. And Robert comes out first because he's the newest member of the band, and bless his heart, he's a sweet man. And his kids are bloody talented because they both played at the jam with us a little while back and they killed it. And then James came out, the what would be the anchor of the band. No offense to Lars or by any means to Kirk, but the entire rhythm section of Metallica starts right here on James Hetfield's arm and ends right here. Okay, I'm just saying. The entire rhythm section is in this section of his body, and it's amazing. And a good dude overall. Comes walking out, room full of people, all waiting, of course, to see him and Lars. More him. And he spots me. I don't know that he couldn't have known I was going to be there. I don't know why. Nobody's going to bring it up. Hey, man, before we hit the downbeat on Damage Incorporated, you know how Sparks is going to be here? The guy from I Love the 90s? I love that guy. That didn't happen. So anyways, he walks in, spots me, beeline straight to me, gets right in my face, and goes, "You know everything about everything, don't you?" And that was the beginning of a lovely conversation. And my answer, of course, was yes. Yes, I do. Hey, look, I see Bob coming in. There he is. I've got it. It's very exciting. By God, I'm going to grab a little link and I'm going to throw him in here and we're going to get started because I got to say that overall, this God knows there's a lot to talk about today, but at the very least, let me get this. Yeah, I need this guy. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I got to turn off Tara's name because Bob won't be good with that. And then throw him in guest one, and we'll bring him in just 1 second. And paste and click, and I will I have a title for him and everything, but and he can hear me and I can hear him, and that's a good thing right now. And I'm going to bring him on right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show the host of the curiously named Bob CESCA show, Bob CESCA. Would you call it the Bob CESCA Podcast, the Bob CESCA Multimedia Experience at some point? We're broadening it out.
The Bob CESCA Headache. That's what I call it.
Well, sure, yeah. Putting a show up every day. I feel you, my brother. I feel it.
I don't. You know what? To this day, Hal, I have no idea how you do it. But if you figure it out, send me some because doing it every day. I used to always laugh at some of these late night hosts who would complain, "Oh my God, it's such a grind to do one of these shows every night." Like Jon Stewart was always complaining about the daily grind of doing that show. And I was like, "Oh my God, stop whining.
Get over yourself."
I know exactly what they're talking about.
Yes, you do, my friend. And on top of that, okay, so I have a history with John back when I did Talk Soup. Before he was the Jon Stewart of the Daily Show that we know him as. He had just taken over for Craig Kilborn and had no idea what this show was going to do to his life. Not really. And I met him at a party. And my show was more daily. Talk Soup was more daily than his show was at that point, because we did 6 days a week, and we did a foreign show. We had to recut some of the stuff for the foreign markets, and so I was doing 7 days a week of this thing. And Henson, bless his heart, by the time he was in his 4th year, he was I think he was smoking weed right up to noon. They shot from noon to 12:30, and then he just had a blunt and a skateboard waiting as soon as he was done with the show. He was so over it, right? Bob's okay. Bring Bob's mic up. Make sure your volume is high. People are telling me, no, I got it. I'll do it on my end because then it gets too confusing. Yep, there we go. Check for me. Make sure.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Bob from the Bob CESCA Headache.
There you go. The Bob CESCA. Yeah. Oh my God. I gotta say, the Bob CESCA Headache is actually, in this day's anti-media setting, is kind of brilliant. I'm not gonna lie. It's almost there. So anyways, I meet John. I meet John at this party, and he's a sweet guy, and I've known him from stand-up before. I've met him a couple of times, but he wouldn't have remembered me because it was pre-Talk Soup for me. And I go, "What? How's the Daily Show? How's it going?" And he goes, "Oh, it's actually pretty sweet. We barely do any interviews, so I don't really have many guests or whatever. I do an opening monologue, mostly that the writers are picking up the slack on because they're a well-oiled machine left over from Craig. They film these moment of Zen bits for the end. We have guests come on, they write their piece, and I just throw to them. I'm basically the straight guy." He said that was the hardest work of the whole thing, was learning to be the straight guy on like the Colbert-like bits that they do, the other fake news bits. And then he goes, the rest of it, and then we throw to packages, and he goes, "I just put my feet up." I mean, the live audience doesn't even know what to do because they're watching a television set in a television studio. And so he goes, "I work about 8 minutes a show." And then years later, his hair turns white because of age and because the Daily Show is like the presidency. If you stretch it out, like 4 years of being the president is like being the Daily Show host for a decade, right? That's what it'll do. That's the same aging because you'll go through the same stress and all that shit. So I mean, the whole thing was just fascinating.
But you do like 6 hours a day, right? I mean, it's something in that range. It's got to be
four minimum. Four is the minimum.
4 to 6 hours a day. That's remarkable. I mean, that's like old school talk radio. That's like back in the day when I used to have to do like a 6-hour overnight shift.
Right.
But here's the thing, Hal, and this was what I think differentiates what you do versus what Jon Stewart used to do. And that is that I never hear you complaining about the grind, which is that's an important aspect of this because it shows that you're still motivated by what it is you're doing. And I feel like Jon Stewart was always kind of like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I've got to do this again today." And
well, he also, yes, I agree. I mean, there's definitely a part of that. And he's definitely part of the Janine Garofalo, if you're proud of anything that you're doing, it's embarrassing. Like they just won't allow themselves. True. You know what I'm talking about. And yes, I don't swing with that. That's not how I roll anyways.
No,
but on top of that, their generation literally comes from this idea that if you like what you're doing, it's kind of insulting to people who have to work for a living.
Yeah.
And I think it's the exact opposite. I think the reality is if you have a gig where you're not digging a fucking ditch and the back of your neck isn't getting blisters on it from leaning over some sort of like mixing cement at a site hour after hour, like in one of these right to work states, then quite frankly, I got nothing to complain about. You know what I mean? Like, it's work. Don't get me wrong. You know it. This is real. It takes a lot of work. It eats a lot of my day just being on top of this shit. But at the same time, it's not the kind where I can complain about it, in the interim, especially as you're trying to, I'm in the process of building something. So anything you build, it's going to be work. You know what I mean? It's going to be like even if it gets to part, and maybe that's where he was too, where it got to the coasting part. And he's actually referencing the building part, because after that little rest time when I knew him there, probably had 4 years of like, they might fire you and ratings and this is and then does the show matter? And every day I'm making jokes, but this is the Iraq war is going on, and who am I in the face of this to make jokes when people are dying? All that shit you deal with, you know what I mean? And I gotta say it wears on you sometimes. But and maybe it's a Gen X thing again. Maybe it's the Gen X comic. Maybe
Gen X on weed. Yeah.
It's Gen X on weed. It's the uncabaret alt comedy crowd that has this problem. I don't have this problem because I like making people laugh. They're mad that that's what comedy is. That was always the weirdest fucking part about. I mean, I don't know if you know that world, like the Uncabaret here in Los Angeles, if you ever got a chance to see that show. My friend Judy Toll used to perform there. Lovely, lovely woman. She, for those that don't know, Judy Toll was engaged to my good friend Chris Bono for a period of time, and she created Sex and the City, and they stole it from her. And then eventually she won a court case, and now they do a silent credit or something at the end of the show.
Right.
But Yeah, I mean, but she was fantastic, and like seriously, like Andy Dick used to perform there all the time, and I mean that's the idea. Like that's the kind of set you're there to see, you know. And
Hmm.
uh, and and Janine would come out with her you know what her notebook was so small in those days,
Yes, I remember.
and now
I
it looks
remember
like the
teeny tiny
Torah.
notebook.
It looks like a handwritten copy of the Torah. It's like it's just this fucking brick. It looks like Nicolas Cage finds it in a fourth sequel to National Treasure.
Right. Yeah, and, I hate to get like there are all these
Yeah.
sort of classic music video tropes where you got to do at least one music video where you appear exhausted from being on the road and
Yeah.
being worshipped by gigantic crowds of people, and it's oh my god, it's why am I on the? I can't wait to get home, and I hate to sound like that, but
Mm-hmm.
to me, there's a thing, there's a sort of convergence between an ongoing sense of responsibility and being honored by this fact. And what I'm talking about is
Mm-hmm.
the fact that people have decided to incorporate your show into their daily schedules. That's
Right.
not an easy thing to achieve.
No.
That's a pretty big feat given the
It-
fact that
Yeah.
we're so distracted. There's so many different options for entertainment and media right now alone, much less video games and so on. And so to have that honor of being linked to someone's personal schedule,
Yes.
that's a big deal. And I take that very, very seriously, at least on my
Right.
behalf. And I think that's where kind of the pressure comes in of doing this almost every day.
Yeah, and especially you and I are dealing with a sort of a political trend where there's a lot of people talking about what's going on, right? And you feel like sometimes like a responsibility to do. I feel a responsibility sometimes, and I'm curious what your approach is, because there's one question I do have for you that is like stories to watch, things that are really catching your eye that seem to be slipping by, and I want to get your take on that in a second. So germinate on that idea.
Okay, you got it.
But I feel a responsibility, and sometimes I have to. It's like dog with a bone because it's this one thing that the mainstream press or the alt-right crowd, whatever their bullshit is, latch onto this other narrative, and they're missing this entire section of the story. And then there's people who specialize in legal stuff, like Legal AF and Mueller, She Wrote, and those men. They do a fantastic job on the sort of the legal bit by bit of it. And so I feel like they've got that handled. And it's almost my responsibility to like translate it into funny and easy listening. It's like I'm a bit like if you got in an elevator and there wasn't music playing, it'd be a little off-putting. But if you get in the elevator and there's a song playing and you know it because that's a song you like, but it's in an elevator tone so that you don't feel like it's just jamming Pearl Jam's Alive in your ear, you know.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it takes some of the pressure off being in an elevator, right? I'm like a political Muzak in that regard, but you got to have, and I feel like that's what the Daily Show was intended to be, was political Muzak, like joke it down, or even National Lampoon. You know, like the Lampoon guys, that's what they did. That's what Mad Magazine was. You know what I mean? Mad Magazine to me had two purposes when I was growing up. Me trying to three. One, me trying to figure out what the fuck Don Martin's sound effects were, like Finzout, which is one of my favorites, and Schaflag bang. But with right, and the other one was honest movie reviews, because they would just shit on every plot hole, every bad piece of dialogue, every bad concept. They would just hammer with they'd set up and punch and set up and punch. And the characters in the movie, they would have them literally excoriating the movie they were in, which I always thought was genius. And the other one was politics, is that they were the ones who would put Nixon on the cover and that kind of stuff, but in a really silly way, which I think helps you retain your optimism about the future. So in that, I'm curious, because you're doing it on the regular and people need to check it out, put you in their no pressure, but they can add you to the schedule and you can stay there.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is becoming, maybe because of this, because it's an evolving process, your sort of mission statement for what you're trying to do, and stories that seem to catch your interest especially lately, maybe in the last couple of weeks even,
Yeah.
that might be missed or whatever? What do you think?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's very similar to yours,
Mhm.
Al, your mission, which is I feel like our job is to lead everyone right up to the brink of the precipice, like right up to the edge of the white hot plasma stream of the daily
Right.
news and our political chaos in this country.
Yeah.
And then to draw everyone back a little bit by a couple of steps and say, wasn't that amazing? Oh my God, look
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
That's and to turn that threat into something that is a little bit more digestible, because I think we all understand the crisis of some of the things that we face on a daily basis. The fact that maybe 100 years ago, the most stressful thing someone would have to go through, a regular person would have to go through, is, oh, maybe one of the cows from the herd wandered off. Let's go corral
I think it was
them back into the herd.
consumption.
Yeah,
Literally,
and
it was
now,
like coughing yourself to death, I think, was the thing.
Exactly,
Consumption,
right.
having laying in a bag with a rag on your mouth. Paul, saying Paul a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, but now it's every day. We're all, whether we do this for a living or not, we're all
Yep.
facing an onslaught of 100,000 things that we have
Sure.
to confront and digest and retain and figure out and try to understand where our place is in this story and what we can do. And to make that process a little bit more digestible,
Right.
I think is, not to pat us on the back, but I think that's a necessary thing.
Absolutely.
I think we have a valid role in all this, and the same goes with Stephanie Miller, who's sort of at the
Yes.
center of our orbit in this universe, and a great example of exactly what I'm talking about. Not pulling any punches as far as how extreme and severe some of the problems are, but at the same time saying, "Hey, you know what? We can also laugh at this thing too." And so it's
Right.
like the other day when you were doing that impromptu Trump animation, shuttling back and forth between those two frames
Saying
of him
poop
talking
over and over again.
at
That
the
one?
airport. Oh my God, it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And the spontaneity of what you do is amazing. See, this is turning into one of those Jerry Lewis specials where he used to have all his old time vaudevillian comedians on and go, "Hey, you know what? Weren't we great?
I need a
great?
lozenge
We
in
were
my
so
mouth.
funny."
We used to do a show down there. Tell them about. Remember that show you used to do? Anyways.
Yes, which is, by the way, the funniest Jerry Lewis is Jerry Lewis being serious. Always.
Yes, absolutely. Especially when he says bullshit like women aren't funny, which to that I would always just go Madeline Kahn, Carol Burnett, /
Gilda
go fuck
Radner,
yourself.
Stephanie
Gilda-
Miller.
Yeah, seriously.
Go
And
on and on.
interestingly enough, now I have a different perspective on things now because I'm a carnivore. I've been since January. It's a very strange journey. I've been on diet wise.
Wow. What changed weight? What changed your mind? How'd you start eating meat again?
So I was a vegan for a few years with my ex before Summer and I were together, and then I had to I went back to being like a pescatarian and whatever. But just frankly, it was killing me. It was for the longest time I had like skin issues. I get contact dermatitis. I've told the chat and everybody this a bunch of times, but like really sensitive to like detergents and stuff like that. And I couldn't tell.
Me too.
And usually I start on the inside and I'm like, okay, something I'm eating is changing my body chemistry to make me, because if I, if everybody else is fine, something about me is the thing that's not fine, right? So at least to hunt that down. So I was like, I need to go on an elimination diet finally to just nail this. Like what? And so I was literally like, the only reason I chose it was because I needed to keep my protein up because I'm trying to build muscle for something very specific. And so I couldn't like go like hyper vegan or become an Eritarian, or some shit, or do a water fast or any of that, right? Because I couldn't afford to shrink at the time. And your voice goes with it too. If you go on any kind of a major fast, the one thing you get is. And so since I was singing so much, that was out of the question. So I started looking into this, and I saw this lecture on like plant cytochemicals and the toxins that they put out to try and keep you from eating too much of them. And obviously, the obvious ones are spices and like poison ivy, but the not so obvious ones are the fact that there's like 300 carcinogens in Brussels sprouts. And I was like, yo, what now? And so,
wow, damn it.
yeah,
I had
there's
no
more
idea.
more carcinogens in Brussels sprouts than there are in the pesticides used to grow like conventionally grown vegetables.
Oh my God.
So anyways, so the point this guy made was, and this is not for everybody, nobody has to buy into this, but this is what happened anyways, is that this guy in it said, yeah, I don't eat vegetables. I don't let my kids eat vegetables. Plants are trying to kill you. And the idea is that, we eat ruminant animals that have 4 stomachs because they can separate that stuff out. We cannot. We don't have the means to separate the bad parts of the plant from the good parts of the plant. The way we do it, quite frankly, is supplements. That's how humans have learned to do it. Humans can supplement with those things, and it's great because that's the process. You remove all the things that the cow chewing it up would do. But the rest of it, insofar as like fat and protein, we used to jump all over animals and chew them to pieces, and that's how we lived.
Right.
So, anyways, I started doing that, but that's not important. The important thing is that I used to refer to Steph as sort of like Beyond Meat in the morning zoo world, because she sounds just like the morning zoo that you'd hear on the regular radio anywhere, just joking around and fucking around and doing all the stuff that they do.
Yeah.
But it's healthier for you. It's that. One step closer. Now, I don't believe that about Beyond. It's terrible. And the amount of palm oil is just, that's wiping out tribes in South America. So that's reason enough not to. But that said, the point is that she uses the standard morning zoo attitude and comedy stylings, if I may, and I think I can, as a delivery system. You know what she is? She's the putting a pill in the peanut butter for your dog. That's what she is. She's the peanut butter. And that's great.
That's what I try to do. It's the same sort of thing. And in fact, I've told Steph this a million times, and she's probably sick of me saying this, but I think liberal talk radio would have been much more successful than it was. And I'm going all the way back to Air America, if there was more of the Stephanie Miller approach to it. And I'm talking about terrestrial broadcast syndicated radio. And it's not happening. And that's not to say what Tom Hartman does or anyone else is bad. I'm just saying that I think there needs to be a little bit more Stephanie Miller. Yeah. I think there needs to be, liberals need to have more fun in talking about this stuff.
I agree.
Because if not, we're going to burn out, and liberals very easily burn out. We see it all the time. You can actually look at blog views or publication views or podcast downloads and see the times when liberals go, okay, you know what, I'm out. I can't deal with this chaos anymore. I'm going to take a step back. You guys go do the thing that you do, and we'll be back in a couple of months. And that tends to happen quite a bit. And
I think you're right. I think,
I was going to say, at least in comparison to the constant white noise screeching that we hear on the right, on the Trump Republican side. So, I think that puts us at a disadvantage. So I think sometimes adding some way, as you put it, to put the pill into the peanut butter for the dog to digest, not saying, now wait a second.
A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Right.
It's not what I meant, but
Yes. Yeah. No, I get it. What I would say, like, even a great example of like Air America's direction was that Al Franken was on there, but ultimately, I think because he was choosing to run for Senate eventually, stayed away from the comedic side of what had brought him to that space in the first place. Because the reason people were like, oh, Al Franken, I loved him on SNL, and then he got into it and was basically as wonky or more than Tom Hartman to some degree, which was a missed opportunity. His books are very funny when he takes this stuff on, but on the day-to-day grind of doing the radio show, he really lowered kind of the energy level for what he was doing. Because it was, you sit in a room and you just meet it's the same 3 people, and you're talking into a microphone. God knows where it's going. That's the other thing. How do you deal with that part of it? Because I'm pretty good at this point, because I got a chat going that's just like it's just rah, 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 the whole time. So I know there's something going on, and it's almost like watching a ripple in a pond. If I say something that there's a huge agreement or disagreement, I'll see this like. This cloud go off in the chat, and go, and then go, okay, this I have to address specifically with the crowd in there. He didn't have that on radio, early talk radio, and maybe that's what part of it was, was that that wasn't so much there. It is, and if they wrote it through and made it through that stretch, might have had more of an impact, that live audience aspect.
And, we're starting to see this change a little bit, but I've worked a bit in democratic messaging and ad editing, where I've done a lot of editing with, I'm sure Cliff Schechter. He does a lot of writing of democratic political ads. And I sometimes do the editing of those ads. And so he and I are constantly having this conversation which is that we wish the Democratic Party and the messaging would be, and I'm not talking about the Democratic Party establishment necessarily, but I'm talking about political consultants and on down the line, because I think that messaging comes from many different strata of the entire apparatus.
Right.
But we believe that the Democratic Party tends to get a little too timid when it comes to messaging. Like, we've pitched ideas for ad campaigns that have been across the board rejected because they're seen as a little bit too extreme. And so that tends to pull the Democrats back from getting messaging that resonates as well as it should, because they're a little bit too timid. And so I think the same thing was going on with maybe Al Franken on Air America, and some of the other Air America hosts were afraid to go too far because there was some sort of preconceived notion that, well, liberals won't accept the silliness and the fart noises, but obviously you and Stephanie, and to an extent what I do, is runs contrary to all of that.
Exactly.
And it still works. So,
well, I've always felt that the purpose of politics is to be a delivery system for your values so that you can live them without thinking about them all the time. Like it's sort of like Buddhist monks that don't pray, they're in constant prayer. The idea that you are always walking in that thought form, so you don't have to constantly remind yourself or wear the Trump hat or all that kind of stuff. That's why we don't wear a lot of merch, is because you live your values. You don't have to remind yourself all the time. It's otherwise, and the fear is becoming, a Mike Lindell Christian, where you're just like wearing the cross as a gang sign to other people, as opposed to a symbol of who you are, what you're about, that kind of thing. But for me, the point of it is to live freely and enjoy your life and raise happy children and educate yourself, all the stuff we're aiming towards. So being miserable on the road getting there is both, it doesn't help. It certainly doesn't move things along faster. And it's contrary to the mission, right? It's not what you're headed towards. The goal isn't to be miserable and aware of all the sorrow in the world. That's not the point. The point is to help where you can and create a system that where as many people as possible can live the best lives they possibly can, without, with this little struggle of their own, that's not of their own making as possible. That's it.
Yeah.
And so if the point is happiness, might as well start there. And secondly, whistling on a long journey, in my family, one of the things, like my dad, I didn't like it at the time, but when I was growing up, my dad had this phrase he used to say, "We'll cry when the march is done," and to keep you from bitching about something in the middle. You can cry when you're exhausted. We got to finish this. There's no question we have to finish this. Crying, being upset won't change this part of it. Whatever it is, the mission doesn't change. The process doesn't change. We're still got to get through this. If it's a long drive, if it's a study session for a test or whatever, cry when the march is done, because it's not helping. It's just taking time away from the thing that must be done now. And to me, that's where like comedy is a spiritual calling, because to me that's the root of that meaning. That laughing about this isn't just an add-on; it's genuinely necessary to the path.
Yeah.
Because without it, you do see this. And I think on our sides, and I'm sure you saw this. It was all over Twitter for a while. But people getting points for being exhausted, especially during the Trump years. People would you would literally hashtag exhausted, or people would actually almost like high five on how worn out they were by this guy. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not impressive. I want to see the people who go, this guy's nothing. And in a few years, he's going to be a hysterical memory, just like all the. I mean, we're not going through World War II right now. Calm the fuck down, and start making fun of this asshole because it's really his only weakness. That's the other thing about the Trumpies of the world is, ironically, the fuck your feelings crowd can't take a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Especially him.
And look, I think your place in all of this is to provide that level of counterbalance to the exhaustion idea. I think that is so crucial because I can tell from personal experience that obviously for quite a bit of time, I was watching every one of your evening shows, Megaworldwide. Well, and then Mary Trump and I decided to start doing this Star Trek podcast, which took up all the rest of my free time. Yeah, well, so what happened, we paused the show for the strike, but in the meantime, when we were doing the show, I didn't really have the time to check in with your show. And it's funny, you can track my level of optimism from where I started watching your show, and then as I started getting distracted and not able to watch it, my level of optimism just started to like nosedive. It was incredible. And now I'm back watching it again, and oh my God, I feel so much better about this.
I'm glad.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. It's like turning on a switch. It's an incredible thing. And I think that of the many things that you do, that's one of the most valuable aspects because you're not just giving hope for the sake of hope and optimism.
Right.
You're doing this to contextualize all these news stories that we digest every day. And once you put everything into a proper context, it may not be the greatest news in the world, but it's certainly not as catastrophic as maybe seeing it all just as its separate parts.
Right.
Taking like Jon Stewart used to he used to famously say he'd take the lawnmower apart and spread out all the parts on the lawn. And then he'd show you all the parts. What you do is you kind of put all those parts back together and say, here's what this
make a dune buggy.
Exactly. Here's how you should be looking at this particular story in this context. And by the way, once you do that, it's not the crisis that you think it is. Because we all look at all these different stories that come careening down our social media feeds, and we go, how can I possibly start to digest this? And in fact, going back to one of your earlier questions about what's an underreported story, it's, I think, one of the biggest stories of our time. And there has been some writing about this around the edges, but the inability for human beings to digest the firestorm, the avalanche, the tsunami of information that we're faced with every day. I think that is, if not the root cause, one of the primary root causes with the level of chaos that we face in this country.
And probably the anxiety people feel.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think it's a combination of those things where I don't think, well, let's put it this way. I think the internet came along too early in our human evolution. I think we weren't quite ready to absorb all of this crap. And so therefore, to use an overused metaphor, people like you who serve as a Sherpa, as a guide through all of this stuff.
On a bee, your beast pudding. Right, I get it.
I mean, it's such a crucial role to play because to add that context, to explain how all these different things fit together, that it's not just 1,000 separate stories, that in some way there's individual narratives that bind at least a solid percentage of them together.
Right.
That's crucial to have because there's this thing with the internet and as I said, the avalanche of information. And social media then makes it even worse because then social media encourages extremism through its algorithms. Which to me explains...
it's mechanical. It's honest to God, and I don't mean this in a pejorative. It is effectively, I don't know, like an infusion of autism in that it hyper focuses you whether you want to or not, and that's one of the other aspects that people aren't. And it's interesting that the very people that are often attracted to programming and the like are the kind of people who have the thought of, I only want to watch one thing over and over and over again, and I don't want to hear anything else because if I hear anything else, it upsets me. That is part of what it takes to have the mentality to be a coder in the last 20 years. You have to shun the rest of the world. It's different than being a novel writer or something else that requires, solitude and focus, because even then you're developing characters in your head, you're creating dialogue with them, you're almost not alone, right? But when it comes to coding, I mean, that's the jolt generation. Caffeine, some forms of, speed in pill form. And in all honesty, like that, look at all the focus drinks right now. I've often said that there's certain elements like Adderall in particular, and it's interesting that Trump uses it. But I've always had this theory for a while that if you need Adderall, if you have ADHD or you're clinically diagnosed or whatever, Adderall will set you, it'll widen your focus that's like this to about this, which is normal, right? If your focus is normal, it will focus you like this. And that's not normal. And that is racism. That's bigotry. That's how those kind of fixations are created in the human mind, where you are one-to-one, for lack of a better analogy, everything is black and white. You have no gray area. And so the people, when somebody like Donald Trump, who is used to using speed or something for years just to keep himself up and kind of gacked without having to score Coke in the 80s, switches to Adderall because that's the shit in colleges and the like. And obviously if in college, by the way, you're and this is somebody who never went but hung around a decent number of campuses, because my girlfriend at the time, like, I dated 3 different girls over the course of like 8 years, and they were in college, during that window. And so I would hang around. Your focus isn't even this. It's this. It's like your periphery is blown wide open. Your whole life is changed. You're now not in high school where they tell you where to be. You can be there or not be there. It's up to you to flunk or make it. Your subjects are all over the map. Your social life is expanded in a way. So even in that situation, everybody could have ADHD, in that regard. But if you don't, and you live in effectively a gilded cage like Trump set up for himself in the 80s and beyond, as a host of The Apprentice, where you're narrow where you're going to go. If you're going to go anywhere, you have to let somebody know, and they have to let people know. That's a very weird life. And then you start taking a drug that focuses your attention, you're going to become a bigot whether you want to or not. And I'm not letting him off the hook, because you can be a bigot about a lot of things, which is, I hate people and I just want to tinker. That's another form of anti-human bigotry.
You know what it is? It's tweaking. It's like meth addicts when they start taking apart the VCR. Exactly right. They're so focused on making sure that all the different parts of the remote control are spread out on the table in front of them, and they've gotten all the demons and the weird mysteries out of the remote control for the VCR. And so then that's been their focus that whole time.
Right. What's next? And I, as somebody who hyper focuses on tech a lot of times, or who can get down a rabbit hole where I'm just like, all I care about is making graphics for my show, because it's one of the other ways that I can keep the show interesting for myself and keep myself engaged, that kind of shit. I get it. I so fucking get it. My neighbor, when I was growing up, my buddy Kurt, became a computer programmer later in life, but he used to take apart the vacuum cleaner. He took apart the remote control for the TV. They had an old television when they got their new one. He dismantled the entire frigging thing. I understood that mentality growing up. I just liked people too much to dive into it. Now, before I lose you, because we got about 10 minutes left, and then Tara's going to be joining me. I want to do something with you, if I could, which is, I don't know if you talked about it this morning, and let me see if I can set this up and this works at all right. There you go. A date has been set for Trump's trial of March 4th, which I believe is Super Tuesday, or very possibly will be
the day before Super Tuesday.
Yeah.
Exactly the day. It's the Monday before Super Tuesday. Yes. Right.
So I gotta say, that's pretty friggin' spectacular.
It is. And I'm still on the fence as to how this is going to affect Donald Trump, because here's where I am right now, Hal. Okay. My instinct is to suggest that Donald Trump will not be the Republican nominee. I mean, my gut is telling me that. Events are telling me that. But at the same time, I forecasted that he wasn't going to run in the first place. So
Right.
I feel like
Yeah, me
maybe
too.
I should step back from making the predictions for a while. But all things being equal at this point, it seems ludicrous that once this information starts rolling out, that Republicans would continue to double down. Even just missing that debate last week affected Donald Trump's numbers. I don't think they're as solid as he likes to think
No.
they are. It's certainly not the RNC.
No. Well, the reality is he is definitely going to like drop out in one form or the other, either because he's just, quite frankly, he effectively, remember at the end of his presidency, he checked out. He stopped being president, basically.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't care. He didn't do any of the. He set that date for Afghanistan. Then didn't do any of the. He didn't do any of the homework required to get people out, deal with the people that we had to extract. None of that stuff. And again, he could have gotten everybody out during COVID and used it as an excuse if he had one fucking brain cell, but he doesn't. So he just, once he lost on the 4th, and that's, I think, the biggest tell that he knew he actually lost. He was like, fuck this place. Like, he just did, right? He didn't give a shit about the country anymore. He was phoning everything in. He wasn't even going to the regular meetings. I swear to God, if he really had a president's daily brief after November 7th that he sat for, I'd be fucking shocked.
Oh, I know.
Right.
Well, here's my other line of reasoning as to whether or not he's going to remain in this race in the first place. Is what I'm doing right now is I'm following the cash flow of not only Save America PAC, but the RNC in general. And I think they're going to run out of money. I think they're already tapping out their biggest donors. They're already tapping out their fan base. Just the rank and file red hat suckers have already exhausted their life savings and their checking accounts. That can't go on in perpetuity. And they really haven't spent dime one on the campaign itself. It's all been a legal defense slush fund for Donald Trump. So
I know, it's awesome.
How much longer can that go on? I mean, we're just coming up on September of the year before the election. So I mean, it seems unheard
well, he bled him
of.
dry early. The irony is the only hope they have is that Biden's economy is actually rock solid, and these idiots are getting most of these his MAGA crowd are getting more contracts than they've ever had, especially if they do run of the mill blue collar work, especially around infrastructure, anything even tangentially attached to infrastructure. They're going to have a great year in the next 18 months. He's going to benefit from that, but none of it, even if they do give it to him, he's just going to spend it on himself, which is exactly what he did. The man spent 400 years of presidential salary golfing. The U.S. government had to pay 400 years worth of presidential salary just following this dickhead to golf courses. Just protecting him at Mar-a-Lago, at Bedminster, when he insisted everybody go to Aberdeen with him, right, and stay at his hotel there and all that nonsense. So the idea that he gives a rat's ass about the people who actually kick money his direction, it's just in his face. It's just out his ass instantly, and it's probably again one of the best things to be happy about. If we're gonna be happy clappy about it. One of the best things about this asshole is that he is chewing up every random dime that might go to elect a Republican Congress or Senate. He might be, partially because he started early and he was teasing that he was going to run for president, might be partly responsible, at least a little bit, beyond Dodd, for the lack of a red wave.
Yeah.
Because people were sending him money and not to these candidates.
Right. And I think going back to the question of underreported stories, one of the biggest underreported stories is the fact that these guys, their biggest victims, the biggest victims of Donald Trump and Trumpism and all of the cons circulating around that, the biggest victims are Trump's own supporters, Republican voters. They're the ones emptying their bank accounts. They're the ones being taken advantage of. They're the ones being conned and suckered and all the rest of it. And so in that regard, carry on, please. It's another one of those things where you have to go, well, isn't that sad? Ha 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 ha.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it was abundantly clear he was doing that all along. It was obvious that he was just gonna he was eating funds from these folks. They were like that stupid fucking picture book he used with pictures he didn't even have the rights to, that they couldn't get a publisher because everybody told him to go pound sand. So they just ordered like print yourself books. And then, and to make it look like they've got their own publishing company, basically the Heritage Foundation or somebody backfilled the money to this publisher to make them crank this stuff out. And then they're like, we're out of paper. This is terrible.
Yeah.
Biden's America. We don't have any paper. Remember that? And then you're like, you know why?
It reminds me
Because
that,
real book companies are using them, dummy, because you won't pay for it. So,
yeah, it reminds me of that Carlin bit where he used to talk about, God and how God is all powerful, but he needs money.
He needs
He's
money.
Really bad with money. It's like
Right.
all at once they have to sort of square the idea of Donald Trump being this billionaire genius businessman and the fact that he's desperate for money every time he turns around. I don't know.
think you've stumbled on something.
No wonder they're going indiscriminately bananas. The American nervous breakdown is real, and I think that's one of the causes. Just trying to keep these ideas coexisting in their teeny
well, it's not possible. The cognitive dissonance is rampant in everybody's head. But I think you've stumbled onto something. You know how they're always pushing this idea of Biden as the criminal mastermind / doddering old fool. That they like on one end he's Dr. Evil and he runs a worldwide criminal enterprise where he's got everybody wrapped around his finger and he's like Heismaning all these fucking bribes, coming, or the blackmail, like,
Heismaning.
I don't know how he does it, but apparently they're bribing him to do things they have blackmail on him for, which is exactly the fucking opposite. But don't they pay you if you have blackmail and you pay them if you don't? But apparently it's both. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And also, he's a genius criminal mastermind and also can't finish a sentence and campaign from his basement. But Trump's has the greatest movement ever, but the doddering old fool beat him from his basement. It's amazing to me. Like that's where I get like a brain cramp. Like, what? I'm smelling almonds. Like,
that's right. And the other thing that strikes me too about these people is I've never seen once, and you can disabuse me of this observation if you have contrary information, but
sure,
I've never seen any of these people actually defend Donald Trump on the merits of his defense or on the actual counts of his indictments. There's never any, this count is wrong because of X, Y, and here's the constitutional law attached to that, and here's the U.S. code predicating this or that. You never hear that. It's just the excuse making based on, oh my God, well, they're just persecuting us. They're just coming after us because they hate us and they hate America.
Which is
to me, that's the surefire sign that we're winning this debate. That's
it's recycled. Yeah. It's the recycling of the Trump or like Christian persecution complex. The idea is that they don't even have to be there. They're just trying to destroy us. And which, by the way, the cries of effectively Islamophobia worldwide that have now become kind of an industry in and of themselves are them realizing, there's a political weight to that. I can use that even if it's not true. Even if these people are completely reasonable in their criticisms of me, I can just cry Islamophobia in the same way they cry it's anti-Christian, there's a war on Christmas. Cool. Like, you can just do that. And and on the final note, do you think at some point that it jumps the shark? That Trumpism, and I had Tara's waiting in the wings, or was, and then she went away, and then she came back, and then she went away, and then she came back. You've seen her blink on and off, just like I have, I assume. She'll be with us in a second. I think her cat's eating her camera, but it might just be that she's trying to come in from Portland, and Portland doesn't exist anymore. But hashtag rip Portland. We'll be with her.
That's right.
She's
it's
reporting
still
live.
Burning. It's still on fire.
Still on fire. Still smoldering. So, do you think? Bob CESCA, host of the Bob CESCA Headache. Do you think it jumps the shark at some point?
Oh my God, yes.
Do you think
I mean,
with maggots, do you think is that where his numbers have started to turn? Is it because they're just like, this shit again?
The one thing that you can count on in the United States of America is no matter who we are or what we're doing or who we're worshiping, we build up these heroes and then we tear them down. It's like the national, it's not, baseball isn't the national pastime or video game playing or whatever the national pastime happens to be in 2020.
Right.
That's not the national pastime is building up heroes and then tearing them down.
Sure.
The Lance Armstronging of public figures. That's something we do in this country. And I think we can count on that to eventually happen with Donald Trump. I think eventually the people that love him most will start to go, well, who else is there? Is there that other guy, Vivek, with the long last name? Yes, maybe that guy will be the guy. And so I think we may see the beginnings of something like that as these huge cracks in the facade occur when the actual evidence of these criminal prosecutions start rolling out with the televised trial in Georgia and the information coming from Washington and Southern District of Florida and New York and whatever else comes along after that. I think eventually these red hats are going to go, I'm kind of done with Trump. Like Chris Cooper in Adaptation, done with turtles. They move on to something else.
Well, yeah, I think the issue that they have right now is that there are 9 or 10 people jockeying to be Trump but not Trump, and for whatever reason they're not biting yet. But I have a feeling they're gonna have to at some point, if indeed the ideas they espouse are meaningful, as opposed to simply just being, I like the guy. There's being just a Jim Jones like cult or fucking Charlie Manson. Do you want Helter Skelter or not? Is their kind of problem right now, right?
Yeah.
And I gotta say, you can tell which ones if you watch the rallies, and that's how this show started. I just was running these fucking rallies and just getting people through it, and just spot checking him and going, and he talks out of his ass. And if you only see the parts where he seems the most fierce, you miss the parts where he's a stumbling dickhead who can't even pronounce his own fucking name,
And by the way, your audience has a much greater insight into how Trump operates and the entire Republican machine right now than I think anyone else, because you're doing that, because you deconstruct these rallies and all of the red hat media guys, the red hat entertainment complex. That's such a crucial thing. And I think the people who watch your show are much better off.
Well, that's why the sparklers are awesome. That's why our chat is the best in the world. I would agree.
Coming back to our mutual ass kissing.
And by the way, yes, right. But no. But if you've really done it, I can tell you're a pro, Bob CESCA. That's how we know, because you kissed the ass of the audience on your way out the door, and that's the impressive part. So everybody, tune into the Bob CESCA Headache. It's on every day. Your YouTube channel is. Do you have your own URL for it?
I don't. I wish I had a YouTube channel. My Patreon page though is bobcescashow.com.
Okay, great. So okay. So bobcescashow.com will take you to Patreon, and people can sign up there, and then they can become a member of the Patreon, and then you can see he does. I don't do behind the scenes stuff, but Bob certainly does. It's a whole it's basically an OnlyFans. And it's just him lifting weights in the garage covered in oil. It's like RFK Jr., but not on cocaine. And
that's right.
Because you're trying to keep your singing voice. But anyways, thanks so much for dropping by, brother. Please come back sometime, and we will talk at length. And because I have a feeling we're gonna have a lot to chit chat about over the next little bit. So yeah.
Anytime.
All right. I insist. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Give it up for Bob CESCA on his way out the door. Everybody, thanks so much, Bob. Cheers. Let me switch cameras because I do work there. There we go. And off he goes. And then I think Tara's coming in, and there she goes. And I know you can't hear me. Well, that's on your end, my darling, because I am sending you audio. I can hear you now, but you can't hear me. I love how she's mouthing.
I mean, I don't know if you can hear me, but I can't hear you.
I can. Yes, okay. I can hear you.
I can see that you can hear me.
Yes. This will be too weird.
There has to be a way for me to hear you too, because I can't read your lips the entire time. I agree.
All right. So as beautiful as they are. Okay, hold on 1 second.
Let's move this along. I'm just going to read out loud what I think your lips are saying.
All right. So there are no headphones coming up on your computer. There. All right, I will have to fix this. There. Yeah, this is. I love this. This is my favorite. This is my second favorite part. Hold on.
I could hear you before the first time I called in, and then
Mhm.
the sound dropped out, and then you were gone.
I see. Okay. Let's see.
Put up a hand if I should call back.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'll call back.
Yeah. There you go. And then that gives me a moment to fix the lower third, so I can turn on Tara's lower third, and let's go. Take this and stretch it out, and do the thing, and get this bigger, and then we can go. And then while she's figuring herself out, and by the way, hi chat room, you guys are wonderful. If I may, let's see. Do we go to here? I can't go to there because I need to move this over there. I'll move this over here so I can see. There you go. And then we take this. And we stretch that. Oh, I hear her now. The question is, does she hear me? That's the
I
important
hear
part.
you.
Look
I
at
hear
that.
you, and I see you.
See?
But I don't see myself. But I don't need to see myself. I just need to hear and see you.
Oh, you'll see yourself in just a moment. I'll fix that. That's not an issue. All right,
Okay,
excellent.
great.
Now because you've popped on and off, I have to put you in a different well, no, I don't. I can do this. I can do this way. No, it's best if I don't. Okay, hold on.
Yay, technology.
Yeah, it's good times. So
Always.
I'm adding stuff, and the chat can hear you just fine too as well. So there we go. And in a second, it will pop up. There you are, and I can see you. And I'm about to bring on, ladies and gentlemen, if I can, after all the rigums and the rolls, I'll bring in the lady herself. Where is she? There she is. The lovely, the talented Tara Dublin is with us today. Hi, how are you? And so I moved you in there, so I've got to move you back behind the thing so it looks all doable. Turn off studio mode, and then we'll get to this part. Hi, look at that.
Hi.
I'm rooting for everybody black.
That is correct.
Disarray? Is it like not
Yes.
no relation to disarray? Which I
Well,
think
I mean,
would be
you know who Issa is. Issa Rae is a genius, and she's a goddess, and she's President Barbie, and
Hold on.
she's, you know, she's not. I mean, I'm not rooting for Candace Owens necessarily.
Sure,
and
sure,
I'm
I
certainly
understand
not
that.
rooting for Tim Scott. I'm rooting for democratic black women at all times.
I understand.
So and all democratic people of color, for sure, and all
yeah.
people of color who don't support Donald Trump are welcome to come sit by me. That's all. And
Gotcha.
especially since black people are being targeted by Nazis in Florida, I thought it would be good to show my support for the black community,
I
because
think
black
that's a
people
brilliant-
think all
I-
white people hate them, and that is not true.
Not even close to true.
So-
Although I would argue
Not even
that
close.
that actually is the purpose of those types of behaviors. And
course.
I do see on our side of the aisle the occasional, especially the crowd that says, America's irredeemably racist and all that kind of stuff, in its own way is a backhanded way of intimidating people of color and minorities in this country and making them feel unloved and making them feel like every white person that comes up to them, or indeed, if they're black, every Asian person that comes up to them, or if they're Hispanic, every black person that comes up to them has a disdain for them, or vice versa. Obviously, there's different, I couldn't possibly do a mind map of all the potential racism, collect all 17 kinds of racism
It's a
that are out there.
Venn diagram no one wants.
That's right. But in that process, convincing people that no one around you really likes you, that even the people who aren't overtly racist to you are covertly racist towards you, and therefore you have no home, I feel is a form of constant torture. And if you were to say that about the country they live in without immediately following up with, you should get the fuck out of here, means that either you are lying or you have no idea the impact of what you're saying. And I would say, I love everybody. Everybody until they give me a reason not to. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's how we all should be taught from the beginning, but we're not. And no one is born believing anything. No one is born hating anyone. And that is all imparted upon you by your immediate community. So I think as someone who is a minority myself, because I am Jewish, even though I'm not a religious person, and people won't know that about. I know know, but people won't know that about me right away because I don't have a Jewish name and all of these things. It's just, I just feel like it's our responsibility as human beings to be allies to every community we were not born into. Unfortunately, not enough humans agree with this. And that's why where we're at.
Tara, I was officially, just for the record, I was not born into the community of the KKK, even though I grew up in the South. And I'm not going to just ally with them just because they're strange.
Well, I mean, it's talking about like it's nature nurture.
Right.
And no one, I don't care who you are, no one comes out of the womb going, let's make sure we get charter schools and let's make sure that nobody has the right to bodily autonomy and the invisible sky daddy will save us all. No one. That comes from the external. And so I would say that if you are taught hate, you are also able to unlearn that hate. And the easiest way to do that, open your mind, open your ears, talk to people who don't look like you, talk to people who didn't grow up where you grew up. Be a real citizen of the world.
Sure.
Which means that you're open to new experiences and you're open to listening to other people, which we used to do in politics, but we don't anymore. And I was listening to you and Bob talking about how Democrats aren't strong enough on messaging and that we don't know how to hit hard enough and we don't use humor enough. And we're right here, Hal, you and me and Bob, and there's a whole bunch of, and Stephanie, and all those people that you were talking about, and Al Franken. The reason Air America failed in the early 90s is because we didn't have a crazy political climate like we do now, and it didn't seem like we really needed something like that. We need a collective, national, liberal, democratic voice, a message. MAGA, if nothing else, they have their messaging down, right? Their messaging
as
is
absurd
clear
as it is. Right. Yes. Right.
But they come together and it's stupid and they all believe any bullshit that he says, the latest bullshit that he says, but they're all behind it. And now that's a cult mentality. We don't want Democrats to have a cult mentality. We still want Democrats to think for themselves and vote with their conscience. And we also want Democrats to hold our elected leaders accountable and all of those things. But at the same time, Democrats, it's okay to talk tough without being insulting. And it's okay to fight with facts. And that is what I would encourage Democrats to do, because what MAGA does is they don't care what the facts are. They're irrelevant, right? They don't care that there's 91 charges against him. They don't care that there's a new court date. They don't care that he's spending all of 2024 either in court or prepping for court, because they are in a cult and they believe what they want to believe. Our job is to be louder than that. We just have to be louder and we have to be consistent. And the other issue
and more
is,
charismatic. I would argue.
I mean, I would
argue
the good ones.
Yes, right. That to some degree, that sort of early response gave the current alt-right, especially, a lot of fuel and fire when Trump got elected, and they would use like liberal tears as their rallying cry, all that shit. And it came back to bite them in the ass because they're just as whingy and weak as they perceive. As a matter of fact, I would argue more, because they're just whining that their, King Dope won't end up being, sitting on the throne of tax breaks. Whereas other people were like, yeah, women's rights are going to take a major hit. And I mean, you're one of the people, I'm sure, who certainly remembers his interview with Chris Matthews, where he said there's going to have to be a punishment for the women. And I was like, that should have been all the people who are like, oh my God, Dodd is gone. Bam. We need to show up. That should have been the thing that.
There were so many things that should have been the thing that weren't the thing. When he mocked the disabled reporter, is really where it should have ended. And his own party should have been like, I don't care what the compromise is. You can't do that. Yeah. So here we are now. And to go back and try to Monday morning quarterback all of it is an exercise in futility.
I agree.
Right? Okay. So we've seen all these things that don't work for the Democrats. It's time for a new approach. And it doesn't mean we have to get down in the mud, but it also doesn't mean we're Michelle Obama on the highest road where we can't compete. There's a middle ground there. And the middle ground is telling the truth about each individual's record, which is something that I tried to focus on during the debate, because we had 8 people on that stage. And 2 of them said that they wouldn't back Donald Trump. And we had an obvious MAGA plant. Vivek Ramaswamy is The most obvious plant since Jill Stein.
Right.
Who is he? Where did he come from? I don't know. He doesn't know anything about government, and he doesn't know anything about science, so he should not be the president. He is a plant. We have to get rid of him. It's telling the truth about the candidates in real time when we see it. And there is Joe Biden has put together like a Democratic task force that's going to go out on the road and talk up the Democrats and say all kinds of good things. And they're great. It's like Gavin Newsom and all of these other Democrats. So like if we keep sending out Gavin Newsom and Eric Swalwell and Cory Booker and Hakeem Jeffries and all of the Democrats who are capable of talking to, if you're not a great public speaker, but you're a great legislator, awesome. Send out the great public speaker, keep the great legislator behind closed doors. We need that kind of power. While we're not in a cult, and I'm not going to be wearing Biden Harris from head to toe every day, I'm still here in the trenches every day, right? You don't have to wear your heart on your sleeve to be a passionate supporter of your candidates. So what I would ask of Democrats going forward is, if you're seeing weak messaging, jump on it and say, okay, but say this instead. Make an appointment with your local representative if you can. Write them a letter. You're allowed to do that. You're also allowed to write letters to any member of Congress. You're allowed to contact any member of Congress and say, here's what I see. Here's what I would like to see. Doesn't mean they're going to listen, but do something. Don't just do nothing and expect better results, because what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So we are now in a time where we have the alleged leading candidate for the GOP has allegedly the leading candidate. He says he's the leading candidate, and these polls are very biased. I agree with Bob in that eventually he can't be the nominee. He just can't, because of all of the problematic reasons and the fact that he's going to be sitting in court in all of 2024. So I think, but of who we saw on that stage, and I watched the entire thing. That was the longest I've ever had Fox News on, ever. And the fact that they started the debate with Bill Hemmer going, it's debate night in America and the President Biden is on vacation. It's like, fuck you, man. Really? You're going to set the bar that low already?
Right.
What I saw was a lot of nothing. I saw a lot of nothing, a lot of hot air. And what I did see, though, was one person. One person can hold Donald Trump accountable on that stage. One person is strong enough to speak out against Donald Trump. Nikki Haley walks that fine line where she's like, I'm going to say something, but then I'm still going to vote for him, probably. And everyone looked around. Chris Christie. Right. Chris Christie's like, fuck that guy. Fuck him twice. Fuck him sideways. Fuck him on a bridge. Fuck him on a beach. Fuck him everywhere. And so, while Governor Bridgegate is in no way a perfect candidate and has his own problematic issues, he's the only one who tells the truth about Trump.
Right.
And that's what we need everywhere. The truth. Yeah. I will always say this on your show. The truth is what matters to me the most. So just keep hammering them. Eventually the MSM is going to have to be like, okay, good. All right, fine. Here's the truth. There's no both sidesing this anymore. Right. So, and I mean, I have people to up until this morning. He's not doing this by himself. There are 18 named co-conspirators in Georgia.
Right.
Why do you think this is a witch hunt? Why do you think people are just going after him? He had so much help getting here, and he's not helping any of the people who helped him, except Rudy Giuliani. He's doing that, raising $100,000 a plate because he's afraid of what Giuliani's going to say. But here,
do you think that goes back to the Giuliani's alleged compromise that he has on Trump? Because he floated that way back in the day, and then there was that thing about the 17 recordings that allegedly Zlochevsky has about Biden and Hunter, all that nonsense, and the guy was going to use it in case he got in a tight spot, was what they said. If he gets in a tight spot, I'm like, okay, he's been kicked out of his country. He had to buy citizenship in another country. He's been on the lam and he hasn't been seen in 3 years. What define tight spot? So, right. What, how much tighter can these spots get? So at a certain point, is this the point where Rudy just like, I guess became, was like, all right, this is it. Like I'm tapped. I have to sell my house You got to pay for some of this. Otherwise, I'm rolling. And was that
I
his
mean,
price?
he's rolling anyway. He's still going to roll. He's still going to defend himself. He's still ultimately at the last.
He's still the same guy Trump fell in love with.
Right. But also, when it comes down to it, if you're sitting in front of Fani Willis and she's got one stack of papers here and one stack of papers, this one sets you free. This one sends you to prison for Donald Trump. Which one are you going with? Nobody wants to go to prison. And nobody wants to go to prison for Donald Trump. And you don't want to go to jail in Georgia. You really, really don't. So
all right.
I would be surprised that if any of them actually stay silent. Because when it comes down to it, you're going to protect your own ass. You're going to cover I don't care what Donald Trump has on you. There is going to be a point where you're going to choose yourself. You have to choose yourself and your country over this one guy. And I think the bulk of this country we're all exhausted from this bullshit. That doesn't mean we're giving up, and that doesn't mean we're going to stop fighting. It's just, and then you get another wind, and you get another wind, and then you get another one. Mm-hmm. I would love to believe that there will come a time where enough people in the Republican Party are like, I can't spin this anymore. Mm-hmm. I cannot spin it anymore. And I think enough people have seen enough and heard enough that whatever the compromise is on Lindsey Graham and Jim Jordan and Marjorie and all of those people will be like, yes, and? Oh, Lindsey Graham likes boys? That's a shock. Oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene was paid extra to be a traitor? Oh, I'm not surprised. Like, none of it will shock us. None of it will be like, that's what you sold out your country for? That? Mm-hmm. That's what was worth whatever they gave you? To be loyal to Trump and sell out your country? That really that?
Well, a lot of them are. I got to say, considering the money that they're alleging that Biden got, even, but which just shows you what they would accept. Probably half of what they think he would do to turn on the country. They're cheap dates when it comes to their patriotism.
They sure are
rolling over into.
They're very because they have no loyalty to the country. They are loyal to themselves first. And so whatever Trump has, first of all, they're so dumb that at this point, they're still expecting their loyalty to be rewarded. Why don't you ask Jenna Ellis how her loyalty is being rewarded right now?
She seems happy. I saw her mugshot. She seems happy. I don't know what you're talking about.
Because she's going to fundraise on it. She's not going to be able to fundraise on a... That's why that Trevion Cootie is doing she looks like a character from that movie Smile. She's like...
Right. Oh,
what
yeah.
What the fuck was that?
You think
a funny mugshot is going to help you raise money for your defense. Why don't you think about why you need a defense in the first place? What did you do? You fucking sold out your country. You committed treason. You chose Trump over America. That's what you did. Fuck around and find out. R.I.P. Portland under my name. I like that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I thought let people know, what's really going on. I thought that was appropriate.
Well, right before we figured out how to get me on the air, there was a whole lot of leaf blower action outside, which I'm very glad stopped because they can try to blow away the terrible, but it's still going to be here.
Still going to be there. It is. All right. So there are a couple of things since I have you on that I want to kind of, what are stories? I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but stories that you've been paying attention to at maybe outside or a thread of a story that you don't think is getting enough attention in terms of Trump's legal stuff or you know what I mean? Like there are a bunch of stories where I get hung up on. Obviously, my vein that I cannot stop hammering is China's economy and my utter and absolute confusion as to what the fuck China was buying when they bribed Biden. What value does blackmail of the Bidens have? Because at this point, if they have blackmail material on Biden and he's treating them like this, then he is, you can't blackmail this motherfucker, even if you really have stuff. And secondly, if you bribed him, you basically paid him to fuck you in the ear. I keep looking at it and I'm trying to, I don't know. I don't want to yuck anybody's yum. I understand if Xi Jinping is into some freaky deaky shit and he just likes being, whacked with a cattle prod on his pee-pee as a thing. And he paid the Bidens to do it metaphorically through economics. Maybe
it's exhausting. This is exhausting.
It's silly.
And every accusation is a confession from the right. So does this mean that it was actually Trump that was getting bribed for keeping his mouth shut about stuff, or what? Anything they accuse Joe Biden of doing is most likely something a Republican did. It's hard for me to believe.
Or they wish they could do, because a lot of times it feels like Trump is jealous that he didn't. It's almost okay. So we know he got $15 million. He got $17 million in his secret Chinese bank account, but he took $15 million out in 2017 while he was president of the United States. And that should matter, but it doesn't for some fucking reason.
Nothing matters, but when it comes to him.
It's weird.
It's the hypocrisy that fucking kills me every single time.
Is he just mad that Biden supposedly got 20? Is once he heard the number 20, he's like, what? I did way more for you motherfuckers. Right.
I'll tell you what he's mad about. He's mad that people love Joe Biden. He's mad that Joe Biden openly loves his children, and Trump's children
has a good
openly
relationship
mad
with them.
Yes, Trump's children are mad that their father doesn't love them, and Trump is mad that his parents didn't love him, and they all have giant chips on their shoulders. And it's like you said earlier, the fuck your feelings crowd sure are really sensitive, tiny snowflakes, because every accusation is a confession. Mm-hmm. Their projection is tremendous. I'm so shocked that in the middle of speeches, Donald Trump isn't stopped so that someone can change the reels because he's projecting so much. There's
a cigarette burn that appears up in the upper side of the corner when he does
exactly,
when he's
and then
looping.
It starts melting, right. And there's like that thread that they can pluck. It's all crap. It's all distraction. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all ignore the man behind the curtain. Right. Because Donald Trump doesn't want people knowing what he did. He wants to make people look in the other direction. He is a subhuman game of 3-card Monte. Where is it now? Where is it now? Where is it now? So I mean, we are so far gone now that no one knows what's real. No one knows what's AI. No one believes any real news, which is why the MSM needs to hit themselves with some like ice cold water and realize they cannot Trumpify Joe Biden. It does not work. Joe Biden doesn't behave like that because Joe Biden has been a dedicated public servant since the 1970s.
Right.
Okay. So and also what I would love for people to remember is that Joe Biden has lived through more unimaginable personal tragedy in his lifetime than anybody should ever know. And he actually cares about other people.
Yeah,
he has
that's
empathy.
the weird part. That's what
people don't know how to recognize empathy anymore.
Right.
And human compassion. And they were making fun of him when he was in Hawaii for being concerned that the dog was getting his paws burned on the hot pavement.
Yeah.
He was also concerned about the humans, you fucking idiots. But he also was he's a dog owner and he loves dogs. And he's like, oh my God, this poor dog. Trump hates dogs and dogs hate Trump because dogs be knowing. They're just my biggest.
Well, it's like the Terminator. You have them near. They always had dogs near the front of the cave in the Terminator because they could spot an inhuman monster on it coming anywhere near.
Exactly.
In that regard, I suppose.
My biggest issue. You're asking me what my biggest issue is. My biggest issue is any distractions. All of the distractions are my issue because people are trying to prevent us from paying attention to what is genuinely happening because they want us to get outraged over Dylan Mulvaney drinking Bud Light. Right. Or they want us to be mad about Barbie, or they want us to be mad about Big Bird. I'm really just talking about Ted Cruz right now. But they have all chosen, here's my platform of distraction. Ted Cruz has chosen his platform of distraction. Jim Jordan's platform of distraction is, I'm going to sue Fonnie Willis, and I'm going to sue Alvin Bragg, and I'm going to do all of this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I thought you said I was all right, Spider. Jim Jordan has no jurisdiction over law enforcement. He didn't have it. So this is all pandering bullshit to the lowest common denominator to keep them up through the Trump bag. And we know this. And there are members of the MSM who know this, and they're still like, well, we went to this Trump rally and talked to this guy in 17 MAGA shirts. Don't do that. Don't do that anymore. Please just tell the truth.
Well, also, this is, I think, the biggest part of the rally aspect of things. Never mind the fact that we know that even Trump is tired of seeing the front row Joes and has started pointing them out as regulars because he recognizes he's losing everybody but the dead enders in this regard.
Exactly.
But if you have 10 fucking flags, you still only get one vote. I don't care what people in the villages think. You only get one fucking vote. And so you can paint why did you turn sideways all of a sudden? That was adorable. And then you became silent. What is your phone doing? This is so Portland. God damn it, Portland. What did I tell you? This is so funny. Okay, we'll switch to the. All right, I can't flip that for you, so you're gonna have to. That's hilarious. See, is this part of that whole keep Portland weird thing? That's just weird. Yeah, she's muted. I don't know. It's swept. Okay, she's calling back. She's gonna have to call back. I'll go to me, and then I'll wait on that question. But I will send. I'll say hi to you guys while we're waiting for her to come back. And by the way, I don't doubt for a second that we dislodged her. I'll hang up on her so that she can call back. And hopefully it will work because it seems to be a thing. And I'll reload the page because that's what I do. And then I got to start my whole process over again. We're fine. Okay. Hashtag Rip Portland. That's what she gets from talking from the bottom of a burned out crater. And if her internet gets shut off, I swear to God, we're doing a GoFundMe. Although we might have to. I'm not going to get her a Starlink. I don't even think she would use it. Yes, I do, Chris. Thank you for asking. And okay, there she is. She's back. And we'll turn this back on. And can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can only see myself though. Hi, Tara.
Well,
how are you?
okay. Hold on one second.
As long as I can hear you, right?
Yes. Hold on. I've got to do this copy, and then I got to put you back in here because that's what I do.
It's what you
And
do.
It's what I do. Paste. And here we go.
One of these days, you're going to be rich enough to afford somebody who can do all of this for you, so you can just.
That's so sweet. From your
Exist.
mouth to YouTube's ears, because at this point,
Let's go YouTube. Pick it up. Pick it up.
Yeah,
Let's go.
we're on the base realm. I'm doing okay in that regard. Like we're making small steps, but I'm nowhere near that zone yet. You know what I mean? Like I'm just I'm just happy to be able to feed myself.
I
on the regular.
understand that so well. She's unemployed.
I know you do.
She's unemployed right now.
Yeah, we're trying to get her a job. Nice segue.
We're trying so hard. Thank you.
We are.
Job or a book deal? Let's go. Let's go.
Okay.
I'm really tired of. I'm really tired of watching Republicans get published, even if it's from a shady
a
publishing
bullshit deal
house.
where somebody buys up all their books to get them on the.
That would be the RNC. The RNC
yes.
buys up all of their books to falsely.
And the
inflate
Heritage
sales.
Foundation. Heritage Foundation is one of the ones. They buy Mark Levin's books, right? So he can, and he's so pissed that all of his books have an asterisk next to him on the New York Times bestseller list because they're all like, this was a bulk buy. I'm like, dude.
No. And then nobody ever reads them. And they also, of course, don't write their own books. And
why would you? If nobody's going to read it and nobody's going to buy it.
It's
shit,
just
I'd have AI
next to the
cranking out these books every day.
It'll end up unread in the bargain bin at Costco. I wrote my own book all by myself and nobody helped me, and no AI and no ghostwriter. And it's the ultimate fan fiction. And I have a blurb from Cameron Crowe, and I have all of these people that I could name drop from being friends with them on Twitter who want to be involved in the eventual adaptation, whether it be a movie or a streaming series. And agents are like, who, what, where, when? I don't see you. You are invisible.
I think we talked to the people who made 80 for Brady and and make some sort of like
Jesus Christ.
40 for Foo or something. We'll figure it out.
I mean, I have it all. It's all good to go, and it's not my
never too old for Grohl. We'll work it out. You
are never too old for Grohl. That is true. Although I heavily fictionalized our story because in real life we never exchanged any bodily fluids, and in
Understood.
the book there's hella sex in the book. So
I understand. Of course there is.
It's good. It's like the best. It's seriously the best thing I've ever written in my life, and I really want everybody to read it, and I really want it to be a thing. And in a perfect world, I also get back in touch with Dave Grohl at some point. But I don't ask for a lot. I really don't. No. I only ask for
just
enough.
Want to move into the guest house and run a small media empire from it.
I could do that.
There's nothing,
totally do that.
Nothing wrong with that.
I think that guest house I could move into, like right now.
Ellen, our chat just went, wait, sex?
Yes, there's sex in the book because there's not sex in my real life, so I put sex in the book instead.
I understand. That's the reason there's no sex in all of my books.
Oh, braggy. Must be nice. Must be nice to have another human being touch you because they want to. Must be nice.
It
I don't know.
is good. Although I will say it is my singular biggest motivation for going to the gym, because I believe that you should not inflict an unfit body on the person that you want to be sexually attracted to it. So that in and of itself is my driving force to, like, you know what? I don't want to make this work for her. I want it to work for her. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. Understood. Well, and I think you and I have, of course, because I'm in Portland, there's
Yes.
literally no one for me to date. I did try to date somebody back in June, but that
Oh.
was a humongous mistake, because what I learned, and this
Is you're
of course, was
allergic
the
to
first part-
patchouli?
No, what I learned
Sorry.
is that, first of all, I learned about my own
Dread
attachment
stink?
style.
I'm sorry.
And then, no, what I learned is that there is not a man alive in Portland who can fucking handle his shit, is what I learned. This man has his own house, his own business, and all of this other stuff, but he had also recently been in a coma. So I added that to my dating questionnaire to screen potential suitors. It's like number 30 or 31. Were you recently in a coma? Because he thought being in a coma, I feel fine now. It's a perfect time to be dating. No, it isn't. No, it is not.
No.
So if
Is your
you
penis
can't
in a
handle,
coma? I think that should be on the questionnaire.
I
Is
don't
this-
know. I never got to see that part of him. I got like a couple of dry, nothing kisses, and then
I don't have
then
ED.
then
My
ghosted.
penis is in a coma.
Then maybe that would be a Portland thing. I'm sorry, I have Portland penis, and
Yeah,
it
right.
doesn't work.
It's
Either that's the extreme. Either they have Portland penis.
It's
or
Marxist
they're-
penis. It's Marxist penis. They
or
don't want to
they're-
work, right? They
or
just
they
want
have
the state to do it for them.
Correct. Or they have the ENM penis, which is the ethical non-monogamy penis, which means they're sharing it with like 7 other people. So I'm not good at sharing.
Yes, as
I'm
Steel
not-
Panther would call it, community property.
So no
Right.
to that. So that's why I'm very focused on getting my book published, because that brings me the kind of joy that getting attention from a dating person would have in the past. But
Sure.
instead, I'm going to get fulfillment through hard work and perseverance and taking care of myself.
I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
that's working really well for me. It's working so well. Anyway,
The
that's where we're at on this Monday.
I understand. Beyond that, okay. So we were on before you got turned sideways and rolling
Yes.
away from us, which was a fascinating,
Which is a great metaphor
adventure.
for my whole life. Yes.
Yeah, right. And I honestly, we'll call it just the Great Portland Rotation, because it only happens to you, and I think it's because the
course it
gravity
does.
is off there. I swear to God, I think you guys have a gravity pocket there, and it does.
We do.
And it's off by like whatever the nano measurements of gravity, whatever they might be currently, because they change all the time because science doesn't know what gravity is still.
Right.
It's off by like 400 units, and so everybody there is a little bit like, I feel lighter, so like I have a responsibility to feel heavy.
Wow.
Right.
I think that explains a lot.
Yeah, that would that's
Really does.
that's my one-line review of Portland as a city. Having been there a couple of times, done a fair amount of stand-up, and been involved in some community property while I was up there during that
Wow.
time a couple of times, as you do. Hey, 30 years on the road. Come on. So the question is, and Bob brought this up, like he thinks Trump drops out. I agree. I think it's a collapse, and it's an ugly one at one point. But I think it's after his poll numbers go down to the point where he can't even fake them with his bullshit Rasmussen ones, right?
Right.
So he's got January alone. I think it's 3 cases. E. Jean Carroll Part 2, The Reckoning. He's got the
Electric Boogaloo.
the video phone stuff, because he's the only person still being sued for 90s technological failures.
Oh my God.
Even Bill Gates has written off his, like he paid off that Netscape shit a long time ago.
Netscape. Wow.
Yeah, I go back. And then of course
Old school.
the possible first which one? There's another one in January. Oh, maybe it's this new one's just been put up there. But he's got 2 in January, 1 in March so far, and 1 in October, December, I guess.
October.
Yeah.
He's got. Yeah. He's busy. He's a busy guy.
Mm-hmm. And the good thing is he'll have a way of getting out of the fact that he has dwindling crowds at his rallies. Because if I was having a rally right now, I'd love to him be in the courtroom and go, there's a line around the block to get in here and watch me kick these guys' ass and win. I have to say, as a big fan of if you're going through hell, keep going, that if I found myself, first of all, if I found myself in his situation, I would be him, and therefore I wouldn't have half the brains that I do, so I wouldn't be able to figure this out. But as me, if I was in a situation that he alleges, how about this? And I'm curious how you would handle it. If you were a political dissident who had been president for 4 years in some, like America has become a South American country, and they ran you off, and they Mandela'd you or they Lula'd you, and you had to fight your way back, and they gave you 4 cases or whatever. Would you handle it anywhere near the way he is handling it, or would you dive straight in,
not.
make a spectacle of like, I'm an open book, look at everything? You know what? At this point, I'm not going to hide a single thing. I'm not even going to push back against any of the evidence. I'm going to double down on everything you say about me. If you think I'm doing this with I'm going to show you all my books, all my everything, just to show you how much these people are lying. If you're honest and you find yourself in this situation, you shouldn't have to do that, by the way.
Well, of course, if you're honest, but he's not. So
no, exactly. And
great to be with you, Dick.
Yeah.
Hi.
That was Ted Cruz, by the way.
We just found out that he sold Mar-a-Lago to Don Jr. for $422 million. I mean,
right.
What?
Right. Well, he put it in a trust under Don Jr.'s name. He didn't.
Sure,
no
he didn't.
money
They don't have
exchanged.
$422 million. Come on.
No.
No, that's why they're in trouble with Letitia James, because they keep falsely inflating values of their things. If I were, first of all, I think you know very well that I would never be in this situation.
Yes.
But if I had this overinflated, toxic narcissism where I thought I was untouchable, and then all of a sudden, all of the chickens came home to roost simultaneously, I think that there would have to be, because of my own capacity, I would have to be like, all right, fine, I did all of this. Fine, fuck it. I'm exhausted. I am exhausted from the
fighting
the
it.
shade and front.
Well, that's how it goes most of the time. Most people have a breaking point. Yeah, and somewhere between like ego of wanting people to know how clever you were, or just being tired of lying, or not being able to keep your lie straight anymore. Most criminals confess after a certain amount of time. They really do.
Well, he already has. He's confessed repeatedly.
Right.
But not on the record,
under oath.
and not under oath. And so, like we keep going back to, every accusation is a confession. Every single one of his Truth Social posts is a confession. He has said repeatedly, it's like that thing. I didn't do it. Oh, but if I did it, it's okay.
Right.
Because it's me. And he thinks he's this special snowflake exception, and he's made his fan base feel like special snowflake exceptions, and they don't want to give up that special feeling. But I'm here to tell you, none of you are special. We are all equal under the eyes of the law. And I'm actually really grateful. Like, I know it took Fonnie Willis like a really long time, and we kept hearing the word imminent, and then it was like a year and a half. But of all of the charges against him, hers are the toughest ones. And you get slapped with RICO charge, you're fucked. You're extra fucked.
And if anybody goes down, you go down with them, because if they're guilty tangentially, you have to be guilty because you were part of the guilty conspiracy, and that was the incident.
You started it. They were racketeering for you, and they were part of your conspiracy. And
that's right.
These people didn't wake up, and 18 people independently did not go, I'm going to help Donald Trump steal an election. It was from him. They never would have thought of stealing an election if he didn't float it, if it didn't come from him. This makes me want to go back to 2016 and see what they did there. Because of the way Hillary Clinton was polling and the way everything was going, he never should have gotten remotely close. Right. So I feel like in 2020, they're like, well, we'll just do what we did in 2016. But people were like, you did what now? What'd you do?
Yeah.
What'd you do? And so, I mean, you're in that situation, and the whole world is watching you, and you've got all of these charges, and you can't keep a lawyer, and you keep going to court, and everybody around you keeps getting in trouble. There is a point where somebody is going to say, and I really hope it's somebody in the Republican Party in Congress who says, you know what? Enough. We can no longer pretend this is normal. We can no longer pretend that we can justify this behavior because it has done so much damage to our party. I personally am not responsible for Donald Trump, but I am responsible for supporting him for this amount of time. But now, from this point forward, I renounce Donald Trump. I do not support him, and I will work hard to find us a better nominee. One Republican says this, one Republican who's maybe respected. I don't know who that would be, but somebody who has enough gravitas needs to stand up and say, I'm not scared of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is only one man. Donald Trump is not America, and we need to choose America before we choose
and also
any individual.
They keep moving the goalposts. The Republican candidates, especially, but like it was like there was literally that point where like if he's if he's impeached, that's my line. But then no, he has to be removed. Okay, he may have be removed, but if he should be able to run again, so we won't remove him even though he got impeached twice. So we'll let the courts handle that. And once the courts handle that, if he's if he's indicted, then I'm done. No, okay. If he's convicted, I'm done. At some point,
that's the new party line.
If it'll like at this point, most like run of the mill Republicans, it seems like all right, if he can't get like lead shift supervisor in the license plate factory, then I'm out. That's the final.
Well, now we have a couple of members of the Federalist Society who are bringing up the 14th Amendment.
Sure.
So if the Federalist Society, which I think owns the conservative half of the Supreme Court at this point, and therefore most of the Republican Party, if we have members of the Federalist Society saying he shouldn't be the nominee, he can't run, this is the 14th Amendment, he's not going to be the nominee. Because as goes the Federalist Society, so goes the Republican Party. Right. So the Federalist Society doesn't follow the GOP. The GOP follows what they say because that's where the money comes from. So if the Federalist Society money people are be like, actually, no, he's actually not. They're going to find someone. It's not going to be Vivek, but the Federalist Society will put their energy behind a different candidate. That's going to be the nominee. So keep an eye. I would say just keep an eye on what the Federalist Society is talking about, which is not anything I would normally say.
Yep.
I mean, I can't totally watch them because Meghan McCain's husband has me blocked on Twitter, but of course he does. But and by the way, Donald Trump came back to Twitter apparently.
Just once though.
Today,
right? No?
I'm very proud to say, today is my Trump block-versary. My Trump block-versary. I achieved my Trump block on this day in 2015.
Oh, that's sweet.
And I was never unblocked. And man, I mean, I think that alone should get me a book deal. All of my MAGA blocks, I should just have a book deal because of that. But there will be someone who stands up and said, like the Federalist Society, they're going to say, here is a criminal, coward, traitor to the United States. Maybe they won't say it like we do, but they'll say it in their way. And they'll say, this is not a candidate this is a candidate we can no longer support because he breached the 14th Amendment. And that is against all of our American values. And they're going to start leaning heavily into the American values and what a Republican should be and reclaiming the Republican Party. I would guess, because if we have only 2 members of the Federal Society saying it now, that's going to grow. It's going to spread. And I do believe that'll become one of their defining messages. And as soon as he fully loses the Federalist Society, anyone else who's tied into the Federalist Society will side with the Federalist Society over Trump.
Right.
While Democrats continue to hammer how
actual governance.
Well, I think the best thing Democrats need to do is say, I'm tired of talking about Donald Trump, and I'm tired of Donald Trump dominating the news cycle when Joe Biden is out here lowering inflation and narrowing the black-white unemployment gap to the closest in history and his amazing infrastructure bill. And he's done this and he's done that and he's doing this and he's doing this and this. And Kamala Harris went to Africa and Kamala Harris is doing this. People need to know what our president and vice president are doing for them on the daily. And the MSM is like, but it's not ragey enough. Remember back how you used to cover Obama, which is barely?
Right.
Go back to that. Like, here's Joe Biden doing his job. No, okay. And then now here's other news. I miss that. I miss when we really didn't, like we knew we had a president who's doing their job. but we didn't have to be like uber focused and micromanage everything that he said and did and places that he went because we weren't afraid he was going to blow us up.
Right. Well, we don't have
right?
to, people take for granted the fact that you don't have to white knuckle your government. And I would like to point out that Trump posted this 5 hours ago, today or whatever. I believe that Truth Social is the greatest and hottest, in quotes, form, system, and platform of communication in America and indeed the world today. That's why I use it. There is nothing that comes even close! Exclamation point, exclamation point. Like, it's an angry one, but I guarantee he posted that because he posted on Twitter, he posted his mugshot, and that's a violation of his contract with this SPAC, so he's trying to cover his ass. But my favorite part is right before that, he puts this one. He goes, it was just reported that aides to Trump prosecutor deranged Jack Smith met with high officials at the White House just prior to these political sleazebags indicating me over nothing. He's been indicated again.
Was it stolen with 2 L's? And
stolen with 2 L's.
Spelled R-O-O-M-E-R. He actually tweeted the word rumor.
Mm-hmm.
Or he truthed it. Rumor. R-O-O-M-E-R. That's how he spelled rumor, because he's a fucking moron.
Right.
He loves the poorly educated because they make him feel smart. He's not
so
a smart man.
Right. He's yelling on this one, dismiss the case, which I think that'll work. That'll work.
Leave me alone.
Boo-hoo.
My mom, my mommy didn't love me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he hasn't slept in like a year.
Yeah.
And he's mainlighting.
Bloodshot
I mean, his eyes in the mugshot is all Diet Coke and Adderall. That's his entire body. It's just Diet Coke and Adderall in a bad suit, and nothing fits him. And he's sundowning right in front of us. And for someone who's so worried about his public image, allowing himself to be seen like at all right now. If he had any sense, he would go into hiding and like hire a personal trainer and like start doing Pilates, and cut out all of the food so that when he resurfaces in October for his first trial, he almost looks like a human. He almost looks fit. Like he has strength and energy, because he doesn't have that. If I were,
can't. Yeah,
he has nothing to be proud of.
My love, I got to tell you, he can't. That is an impossibility, because he believes every human being has a finite number of heartbeats, and once you use them up, you die. And so he can't exercise because that makes. I'm not kidding. He believes that. He really believes that. And so if you exercise, it speeds up your heart rate, and you run out of heartbeats sooner.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He clearly.
This motherfucker was president of the United States, and he thinks that. Like,
somebody told him that he has an enlarged heart or something, and if he exercises, he could have a heart attack. Somebody told him about his own heart, and he thinks that's true of everybody.
Right. Well, no, there was a theory at one point that was floated around almost in New Age circles in the mid 70s that you have a limited number of heartbeats and they end. I'm not kidding. And he must have caught it between mid snorts, and it just planted itself like an idea virus in his head and just stayed, because he really does think that.
He's just the last person who was in his ear. That's what he believes.
Right.
The last person who, whatever they told him, he's like that game of telephone. Whatever started at the beginning, that's not what he heard, and that's not what comes out of his mouth.
That's going to be part of his defense, essentially, is that I was suckered by these people into thinking I really won. So what they did, they knew they were lying to me, right? Honest to God, this is where he starts throwing, Sidney Powell and these dumbasses under the bus. The way it happens, because right now he's playing the whole, I actually believed I won the election, and I was not trying to steal votes. I was trying to get votes I won back. That's going to be his defense in Georgia. And he's going to make it all about mindset. And there's only two ways you can do that, because half the people, he threw anybody out of the room that told him that he lost, right? He made his attorneys leave, but he would keep Sidney Powell and, fucking Mike Pillow or whoever the fuck, the dude from
the yes people stay, the
Yeah.
no people get pushed out.
Right, and they would repeat, they would basically go, "You totally won, you totally won, you totally won," and he could say, "It's their fault, these co-defendants. It's their fault. I believed this. They're the criminals because they're the ones. If anybody knew the details that it wasn't true, it would be them. But they told me I won, and I believed them because I thought I was good for America." Blah. That's what he's going to try to do. The problem is, there's lots of problems. It's not going to work.
There's lots of problems, especially the ones who are getting the speedy trials in Georgia, who just want to get that shit over with. They're like, if I'm going to jail, let's just do it. Just pull off that Band-Aid. I'm going to tell you everything. They're already spilling on him to reduce their sentences there. So it's only a matter of time before he's like, fuck it, I can't do this anymore.
Can I just say that there's been a huge drop off in the meme quality in MAGA as well since the indictment. You'd think it'd get better because of the mugshot, but I think the mugshot, quite frankly, scared them because he looks like shit. His eyes are bloodshot.
That's what I said on your last show.
Yeah, he's trying to look tough.
As soon as that comes out, because there's no strength in that photo. None. He doesn't look defiant.
Nope. He looks mad,
petulant, and angry.
Yeah.
Because
I don't want broccoli.
This wasn't supposed to happen to me.
Right.
Where's my mom?
Horton. But so they post these kind of, like, this is a bunch of this, like, Biden rally, DeSantis rally, Trump rally, this whole thing. And he still beat you. It's almost like the rest of the country doesn't want to go to fucking political rallies. How about that? How about the biggest voter block in the country is people that don't want to go to political rallies? Honest
to God. I don't need to go to a rally. I know.
I'm already rallied. Look at this. The mugshot America deserves. Look, you wish.
Anybody who at this late stage of the game continues to support an indicted criminal. He has been indicted. Not just one time, 4 times.
Yeah.
4 arrests in this calendar year alone. Why is that not enough? 91 charges with more coming. Why is that not enough? Because he hasn't been convicted yet. Okay. When he gets convicted.
Oh, she went sideways again. What happened? You went sideways again. You went sideways and silent again. Oh, Portland. Stop it. All right, you have to call back. We'll fix it. Just reconnect. It's our only solution. It's adorable. Hold on. I don't know what that is. She's got a timer on her phone. Is that a Portland thing? Can't hear you. Call back. Hold on. I'm gonna kick her off, and hopefully she can come back in. I'll reload the page again because there she goes. And go. Okay. Yes, there you go. All right, now she can come back in, and we'll get her back. And Chud, what is it? Battery is low on the phone. Yeah, is that what you think it is? Hold on. Here she comes. I hear her. Yep.
Hi.
Hi. There you go. Hold on. Let's see if it brings her back.
How? You're just gonna have to fly me to wherever you do this show from, and I'll just sit in the room with you from.
I think it's a brilliant idea.
Where do you do your show from?
Lost Wages, Nevada. I call it Lost Wages. Although tomorrow Wednesday I'll be doing it from Los Angeles because I have a show at Flappers on Wednesday night, and tomorrow night is the Ultimate Jam night, where I will be singing the Hollywood Vampires version of My Generation. I will be singing Lover Call by Danko Jones, The Beast by Nico Vega, and The Kill by 30 Seconds to Mars.
Damn, you come hard. I like it.
High notes and all. It's our show to celebrate the youngins. I will be twice the age of everyone else on stage that night. It's going to be a good time.
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that great? Yep. That's so much fun.
It is.
People like you and I who enjoy performing on stage, we don't get to do it nearly enough, so that when it happens, we're like beyond stoked, and maybe we're having even more fun than the audience could ever have, because we're like, I'm on stage, here's the microphone, I get to do this.
Right.
Yay! I get to do it in a couple of weeks. My Low Bar Corral, my favorite thing in all of Portland. If you ever come back to Portland, you have to come to Low Bar Corral. We're doing the 50th anniversary of Schoolhouse Rock.
Oh my God.
I know. And it's going to be on September 19th, and it's going to be the most fun thing. And I get to perform in it. So I get to do like the interjection song and a bunch of other I get to do that.
And excitement.
And, wow. Or
Yeah.
glad.
Hey.
So an interjection starts your sentence right. Da-da-da.
Oh, for it.
So, but all of that stuff that makes us feel like us
Yeah.
is really, really, really important to do, because a lot of people are like, everything is terrible and everything is miserable. You need to find your bliss in this time. Your bliss is performing, my bliss is performing, and we need to get to do that more. And I wish that more people, like, even though times are tough, we're still allowed to have a good time, and we're still allowed to have fun, and we're still allowed to help each other through this time as a connected community. Even though the internet is a shit show of awful, there are still good people out there, and there are still people who want the world to be good and America to be good and people to be kinder to each other, even as we're fighting against the worst people. So when you have these moments, like you get to perform and you get to go to LA and do this, and I get to go to Low Bar Corral and do that, and I get to be on your show and do this.
Yep.
I got to do a voiceover on Friday. Like,
Yay.
these are the things, right, that keep us human and keep us. And I think it's really, really important. Like, all of the things that are aside, like the side gigs and the things that we do to keep us sane from the politics, are truly who we are. And so while this advocacy is really important that we're doing, and sending this message of we're not alone and we're in this together and all of that, getting support for the non-political things we do, I think also matters a lot, because there was a time where we didn't let politics consume us the way it does now. And we just
shouldn't have
lived.
to. It should be.
And that's what we were talking
right.
about before we got tossed again. But like back in the 8 years of the Obama administration, was anybody paying close attention to Joe Biden and being this critical? No, because he was doing his job and working on foreign policy and establishing our relationships around the world that Donald Trump immediately destroyed. So but we didn't, like, it wasn't like every single day we were sitting on Twitter going, oh my God, Obama said this. Oh my God, Obama said, and like, oh my God, he wore a tan suit and likes mustard. That was about it.
Yep.
But otherwise, we were just living and playing fun hashtag games and sharing our lives. And to be able to get back to that kind of feeling, that social media was supposed to do, like, be social instead of antisocial, that would be delightful. And that is another reason to push for accountability for the MAGA people and literally clean house, because he has so many co-conspirators in our Congress that if we are able to literally flush it all out, I believe that we could. I'm not saying it would be the days of wine and roses and it's all gonna be, we're gonna be dancing and happy days are here again and blah, 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 blah. I'm not that willfully obtuse and ignorant, but I do think it is possible for us to get back to a time where we could have legitimate political discourse with the other side without it becoming a death wish. It's possible to be a supportive member to other communities without somebody coming to your store and murdering you because you hung a pride flag. It is possible to have Black students have their own HBCUs and not have a Nazi show up with a gun because he wants to murder Black people. Like, I feel like we could be that society again if enough of us cared about being that society again.
Well,
I would like
yes, agreed. For the record, though, every moment that you had that we took for granted, you know, be it in the 80s, 90s, 70s, whenever people grew up, most of that happened after the Kennedy assassination, the riots in the streets in the civil rights era, during the Cold War, when we had 3 genuine nuclear near misses with an equal or greater nuclear superpower. We've been through shit like this before. And just like, I said during COVID, you have to remember that every hug you've had since the AIDS epidemic started, every handshake you've ever done was after tuberculosis laid waste to the United States in the mid 30s. After the Spanish flu. We get over this kind of shit, but it takes work. You can't take it for granted. And so you got to salute the people who are picking the wood back up and building the building back to what it was, and the people who are trying to make it more resilient for the next time a storm comes. And that's what I think Biden's trying to do. I think that's what a lot of Democrats are trying to do. And I know that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, for
now we just got to get you paid for it.
That would be lovely. Getting paid for anything, as long as I don't have to touch anybody, would be delightful. So,
see?
I know you were going to go somewhere blue, but I just can't work that way. So
I understand. I understand.
I'm still
Oh.
I'm still trying to keep it above board, despite the fact that it's Portland. And I'm not, by the way, anybody out there, I'm not knocking sex work because it is legitimate. And
Sure.
I believe firmly sex
Mm-hmm.
workers should be unionized and have benefits because it is actually a legitimate occupation. It's
Mhm.
just not for me. Not just I support it all.
Well, I've always
But
said
for
that,
me
like
personally-
accountants are just brain hookers. What's the difference?
Math is hard. Math
do you
is
really
too
want to
hard.
look at? Yeah, exactly. So is having sex with somebody that you're not attracted to. So
Yeah, well,
look.
again, we
I'd
all
rather
have our
look at
limits.
somebody. Most people, I'd rather look at them naked than their receipts.
I don't know. You're not a woman
good
who's been
debate.
through menopause, so you don't have that same angle.
Sure.
But I would say that there is a point where we get rid of the scourge of Trump eventually. Like first of all, he's not going to
Mhm.
live forever.
Mhm.
Second of all, if he's booted from the race because he's too busy defending himself in
Right.
court against federal charges,
Mhm.
and an actual normal candidate emerges. Like, let's just say for shits and giggles, Chris Christie emerges as the nominee.
Mhm.
I don't think he's going to go as deep in the mud with Joe Biden as other candidates might. Like, I mean, I know what he said on the debate. Like, he would totally go after Hunter Biden. Blah, blah, blah. Like, leave Hunter Biden alone. He's not he's not in office,
Yeah.
and he's just figuring out his life. Let him live. He
Right.
doesn't have any influence over your life, your livelihood, or your laws. Leave him be. But
Mhm.
Chris Christie, if he's running against Joe Biden, I think he has the capability of seeing Joe Biden for who he truly is,
Mhm.
and not this boogeyman that Donald Trump is trying to make him into, and that MAGA people
Well,
try
he
to make
needs
him
him to
into.
be.
I mean, here's the thing: Joe Biden wants all Americans to have
Did you say?
all of
Did
the
you
same
say
stuff.
scourge? Wait a second. Did I miss that part of it? Did you say scourge? It's scourge, dear. It's scourge.
I
The
said
Trump-
scourge. I think I said scourge because I'm from New Jersey. I don't know how to pronounce
Scourge.
it.
All right, it's scourge.
I said
Yeah,
scourge.
yeah.
I used to
Yeah.
say orange and Florida and pajamas because I'm from the Northeast. There are people
As
who say
opposed to
orange.
pajamas?
I don't know what those are. It's pajamas.
I agree.
My kids make fun of me because they were born and raised out here. So they say pajamas and orange and Tara, and that's all wrong. And so I'll
Mhm.
say to them, I will drink my Florida orange juice while wearing my pajamas.
All right, Tara.
Anyway, I don't like it when people say my name like that,
Sorry.
though. I don't like that. I like the way Jamal Bowman says my name. I like the way a hot black man says my name. Tara Dublin. I love that. It's so sexy. Anyway,
All right.
Democrats are the sexiest. Democrats are the hottest. Democrats want your children to come home alive from school every day.
Yep.
Yep. Democrats
hard
want
enough.
you to have
We don't
your
need
Social
peop-
Security.
Yeah.
Right? We want you to have the Social Security and your retirement that you paid into your entire working life.
Crazy,
We want
I know.
we want you to have bodily autonomy and access to health care, clean water, clean air, bridges that don't collapse. It's
Mhm.
nutty. It's just nutty that we want people to live through the day every day.
Right.
Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever you are.
Yes.
I don't care.
want you
I
to be
don't
alive so I can argue with you.
I mean,
have.
I just want you
yeah.
to be alive, and what you do with your life is your business. But I would say that if you're putting Donald Trump next to Joe Biden, which one of them is putting the best interest of the country first?
Right. All the time. Yeah.
All
I
the
agree.
time.
Yep.
All the time. And as a parting shot, I would also say this. I don't care if you don't like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as people.
Yeah.
You got to keep Democrats in the White House. We have
Mhm.
to keep Democrats as the majority in Congress. If you like any of the things, if you like all of the things that you like and you want to keep them,
Yeah.
Democrats.
Yes.
It's about that thing.
Yep.
I have never
Even-
heard a Democrat say, we want to take your freedoms away from you. We're going to take this from you. But we have Mike Lee on video saying, I can't wait to take away your Social Security from you. And there's a room full of old people going, yay.
Right.
What? Get
Right.
out of your cult. Get out of your cult. Think for yourself. What do I need? Who will give that to me?
Mhm.
Not Republicans.
Right.
It's not going to be a
Well,
Republican.
it's again, Republicans' entire methodology is, government can't do anything right. Elect me and I'll prove it. And
There are 4 words to remember when it comes to this stuff. Democrats deliver. Republicans remove. It really comes down to that.
Mhm.
Republicans are like, what do you have? no, you can't have that. I
Mhm.
want it. I'm going to take it away from you. I can have it, but you can't.
Well, this is what we got into a discussion, and I got to wrap it up. But we got into this discussion after my Saturday radio show about what it truly means to be a progressive, and I would argue that it's in the name. You must be for progress, not purity, not everything or nothing. You must be any act that takes us one step forward or secures the gains that we already have. That's progress. And if you're willing to let something slide and just go, that wasn't important, that thing we won, forget it. Women's rights, these are just social issues. I don't care about that. It's for whatever. Then you're not really a progressive. You might be an authoritarian. You might view yourself as a socialist or a communist or whatever other name you want, but you're not for progress. Progress takes work and constant gardening to maintain the progress that you have. And that's what Democrats do. So
that's right. And we're not
appreciate it.
lazy. We're not lazy, and we don't expect things to fall on our laps, and we're okay with working hard. And that's another thing. Like, Republicans want it like that, and to live in the instant gratification society is just not realistic.
Mhm.
So that's why it's taking me forever to become a success. But we also don't give up on the things that matter to us.
Right.
So just because you don't get it immediately doesn't mean you're not going to get it. And in fact, if you have to wait a little for something instead of having it handed to you, guess what? You end up appreciating it just that much more. Because you worked for it and you earned it. And that's my whole, I don't want to hand out. I want to hand up, and I want to work for a living, and I want to earn my place and earn my keep. So as we wrap, all of my stuff is on the internet for people to consume and share. Tara Dublin Rocks on the Twitter, which is still forever Twitter, and I'm not calling it anything else. Tara Dublin Rocks on the TikTok. You can call it is shitty. But there's also going to become a time where Elon Musk is not in charge of it anymore either. I
agree.
believe.
I think it's sooner rather than later. If he makes it to the middle of next year, I'll be surprised.
That's why we stay put, and that's why we fight, because no one gets to tell us when we're done. We decide, right? As the wise philosopher Taylor Swift once said, "This is our place, and we make the rules." So
look out,
right? So let's
all right. You're awesome. We'll do this.
Thank you.
Yes,
Come
we'll
hang
do
out
this
with me
again very soon. We will, and we're gonna.
I love you, Hal.
We're gonna keep this push going, making sure people don't take their vote for granted and lose what progress has been made, because it actually fucking matters. So everybody, give it up for Tara Dublin Rocks on Shitter, and follow her on there until she, I guess, gets out of Instagram jail or whatever for being a snot to the wrong people. And oh my gosh, they're just announcing Joe the plumber died. The guy who was Joe the plumber.
Oh, really? Oh, good. Well, then he can't tell us what he thinks about this election then.
That's so weird.
Why was he ever a thing?
Well, it was because he was supposedly represented a group of people, but I mean, I don't wish ill on anyone or death on anyone, I'm sure, and it's very sad. No. He was only 49 years old. Very sad for the rest of his family, but I will say that if you're a symbolic person or mildly superstitious on the right, I would take that as a sign, because that was, I mean, he was a major, he would have been on the Mount Rushmore of the Tea Party, because of that whole movement, right? And it's over now. That's, I mean, yeah.
MAGA is over. MAGA is over. They just don't know it yet.
Right. Yeah.
And so we're at that point. I mean, I think it's time to clean out Jonestown. They have to go clean out the bodies, and everyone just needs to move past it. And it's a horrific chapter in America's history. What Trump did to this country, how it's taking us forever to recover from what he did. And future generations, if there are any, are going to look back and go, how did they let any of that happen? Because I still don't get how we let any of this happen.
I don't know. Ask the Germans, ask the Italians, ask the Japanese, ask the Chinese under Xi Jinping or Mao Zedong. Look, ask the
Germans.
Old countries have been through this already. We're young. We and you can't skip a step. Nobody gets to dodge history. Thank you, Tara Dublin. We will see you next time.
Thanks,
much
everybody.
love.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much. See you later.
Bye.
You gotta,
if I can hang up.
Yeah, you
can.
God,
I got you. Let me hang up.
I'll handle it. Don't worry. I got you. There she goes. Tara Dublin, everybody. Tara Dublin rocks at on the shitter machine, if I may. You guys are wonderful, and what a cool show today. And thanks for Andrea for setting that up, so that Bob CESCA could be on for the Mutual Admiration Society does great work. Everybody check out the Bob CESCA Show. Add it to your daily news intake just because I know it stresses him out. And then if anybody knows of a copywriting job or a newspaper that needs a pithy reporter who needs an editor who can take out F-bombs, or a Chicago Reader style paper that still exists, I still think she ought to start one in Portland because I don't think it exists, but then neither does Portland. So we'll figure that out later. Anyways, you guys, I love you. I will see you later on this afternoon. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I mean that. I do mean that. And I'm not just saying that. It's a message I got from the kidney.
kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing.